Yeah, let's just call the oligarchs what they are, oligarchs, and let's roll back the Reagan tax cuts and say, okay, let's do something about this. I mean, it's really pretty incredible. Business Insider has a great piece. This was published back in June of last year. Henry Blodgett, Blodget, on June 12th, 2012. It's titled, "The Most Important Story in America, Family Net Worth Collapses 40% in 3 Years." And it is the most important story in America. And, you know, he goes through all the different graphs and charts, which I can't show you on the radio. So, but net, corporate profits are at an all-time high. The wealth of the top 1% is at an all-time high. Wages for working people is at an all-time low. Family income has just barely kept up, but that means 2 people working instead of 1 before Reaganomics. CEO pay has exploded. Average hourly earnings adjusted for inflation, you go back to 1964 to 2008, they reached a peak in the last year of the Johnson administration, 1972. No, that would have been the last year of the first Nixon administration, of $20. It's average hourly earnings. Right now, $18.52. Oh, actually, that was 2008. It's lower than that now. I'm surprised, frankly, it's that high. Oh, well, that's because it's average. That includes people making piles of money. Meanwhile, CEOs and shareholders have been cashing in. Wages as a percentage of the economy have dropped to an all-time low from 0.53% in 1970 to 0.44% now. The top 1%'s share of pre-tax income was just before the crash. 1928, it was at 25%. And then in the 70s, you know, before Reaganomics, it was down around 8.9%. Guess where it is now? This is the top 1%. All the money made in America, the part that they get, the top 1%. It was at 8% before Reagan came into office. Now it's at 23.5%. You wonder where your paycheck's gone? You wonder where your standard of living is gone? Talk to somebody who's making $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. Talk to the over 100 executives at United Healthcare making $1 million a year, or the CEO who has made $1 billion. And then you look at the United States and other countries, and you see that the top 1/10 of 1% share of income, it's off the chart. We beat Japan, the UK, France, we beat everybody. And by the way, it wasn't always this way. If you look at the era from 1917, you know, more or less the end of World War I, until 1981, the year that Ronald Reagan was sworn into office. At the bottom, 90% of wage earners. So basically, 3-4 generations of Americans, a good solid 3 generations, 1920 to 1980. Yeah, that's 3 generations, 60 years. It's actually a 63-year period, but 60 years. 3 generations. The bottom 90% of wage earners, and the vast majority of wage earners, 90% of all wage earners made 69% of all wages. Right? So 90% of us made 2/3 of all the money in the country. That sounds not unreasonable. Because included in that bottom 90% is the bottom, 10%, 20%, people who are making very, very little. And I'm not saying it should be that way, but it is. And the top 10% got 31% of the wages, right? 69 plus 31 is 100. So from 1917 till 1981. Then you take 1981 to now, Reaganomics. How has Reaganomics worked out? Keep in mind, bottom 90% of us used to make 69% of all income in the United States. Now, the bottom 9% of us make 4% of all income in the United States. Excuse me, these are income gains. Let me include the word gains. So as income goes up. So from 1917 to 1981, all increases in income, all income gains, 69% of all income gains went to the bottom 90%, to 90% of us. Now 90% of us get 4% of the income gains. The top 10% get 96% of the income gains. And by the way, in the last couple of years, all of the wage gains have gone to the top 1%, and the bottom 99% have actually seen their wages slide. Wage gains have become negative. Net worth has become negative. In fact, just consider income inequality. This is from the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. They compile this, the CIA fact book. You can look this stuff up. Again, this is over at Blodgett's blog on Business Insider. Here's the United States. Countries that have a better income inequality than we do. In other words, there's fewer rich and fewer poor, more middle class. Iran, Russia, China, Israel, Japan. Now, these are 2010 figures. This is the last year that the CIA had them. Israel, Japan, India, Egypt. And then you get the more equal countries, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, France. And as we go through this list, it's getting better and better and better in terms of income inequality. France, Canada, Italy, Australia, Denmark, Germany, Austria, Norway, and Sweden, with the lowest income inequality in the world. And who doesn't love Sweden? Well, of course, the conservatives don't. Oh, man. So what do we do about it? Well, like I said, roll back Reaganomics. This is a 30-year, what you're looking at here is a 32-year experiment. You know, we tried this in the 20s. We tried it again.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
Didn't work out so well in the 20s, and it's not working out so well again. This is not rocket science. Roll back Reaganomics. Roll back the Reagan tax cuts.